All right, let's talk about aphasia. First of all, what is it? It's an acquired language impairment that's due to neurological damage. You could have TBI. It could come from a stroke. Often, they're due to strokes. I mean, there's so many incidences of stroke in the U.S., like we talked about in part one. There's also a lot of TBI. It can come from any of these things. Usually, this is going to involve damage to the left hemisphere. Why is that? This is a kind of like a quiz back to one of the first lectures you listened to. Because the language is processed on the left side of the brain. So that's not true in everybody. Some right-handers have flipped brains and they're on the other side. But for most people, language is on the left. And usually aphasia is going to then be caused by damage to the left side. You'll notice when somebody has aphasia that they've got deficits in verbal expression. This is speaking and writing. Like one thing, some people will ask you, well, if they can't say the words, can they just write it out or can they learn sign language? No. If they can't say the words, it's a problem of getting the word to essentially be recognized. Like you can't recognize the correct word. You can't pull the correct word out. So you can't say it or write it or sign it. There is something to be said for teaching these different methods. So like if you didn't know sign before, maybe you could try to learn sign language for some of these new terms and then you could do it. But right off the bat, no. Also, comprehension. So somebody is then talking to you, maybe you can't understand the words that they're saying. And you'll also see people that have difficulty with repetition. So maybe they're fine with verbal expression and they're fine with comprehension, but when they're asked to repeat something right back that they've heard, they can't. So, to understand where we're going with aphasia, you have to understand how we produce words. So you see this thing over here, and this on the left side, this thing, and you're trying to describe what it is. You're going to say to someone else what it is. So you access the concept of what this could be. You find lexicons that match the concept. So you're going to look through, remember we talked about all the different kind of lexicons there are. So you're looking through your mental bank, all your word knowledge that you have that matches the concept. And so you're kind of confused by it. It's got doesn't have four wheels, but it has wheels, so it could be a bike. There's wheels. It looks sort of like a vehicle, so it could be an automobile. You're accessing all these concepts. You choose the target word, which in this case is car, and you say, it's a stupid looking car, because you go through this phonological decoding process once you've chosen your target word. You know what the word is, and then you go car, and then you say, it's a stupid car. But if you have, different types of aphasia are going to interrupt this process in different places. But if you have Broca's aphasia, which we'll talk about, your problem is coming in. Your problem is coming in right here. You see the thing. You know what it is. So these rough concepts here are being activated. But you can't choose the target word because it's not happening. That word, this part right here, this step right here, just can't happen. The neural connections that go from accessing the concept of what car means to actually recognizing the word car and then being able to say it, that's where the breakdown is. You just can't figure it out. It's like being stuck in tip of the tongue, for most of your words. Okay, let's keep going. I was just thinking that I need to pull up some YouTube videos, and I need to do something with my sound so you can hear it. You don't need to know what I'm thinking. This right here, this is the, well, so up here in front, right here, this is Broca's area. We've talked about this before, but it's in the front here. You've got your motor cortex right here, so it's going to overlap with some of the motor cortex, specifically the part of the motor cortex that governs your mouth areas, mouth, lips, tongue, and then also it kind of overlaps with the hands as well. So that's Broca's area. This is Wernicke's area. This is where sound processing, auditory processing, language processing, that's where that's going to happen. And then the little thing between the two is called the arcuate fasciculus. And what happens is damage to this area will give you Broca's aphasia, damage to this area will give you Wernicke's aphasia, and damage to this arcuate fasciculus somewhere else will not allow you to repeat something that you've heard. Broca's area is undamaged, Wernicke's area is undamaged, so no aphasia that looks like those, but you can't repeat something that's been read back to you. That's what I said, comprehension of language, production of language, okay. Fluent aphasia is also called Wernicke's aphasia, so Wernicke's aphasia and fluent aphasia, I guess I should say Wernicke's aphasia is a subtype of fluent aphasia. Fluent aphasia is where what comes out sounds correct. If you're not really listening to individual words, it sounds fine. It sounds like there's not a problem. Once you start listening to the individual words, it's definitely, there's a disorder there. But it's fluent. The speech isn't halting, and it's all coming out, in a flow. So that's fluent aphasia. The types of fluent aphasia that we'll talk about are Wernicke's, that's one of the big ones, conduction aphasia, and transcortical sensory aphasia. Then you've also got non-fluent aphasias with some subtypes, and non-fluent just means that it's not fluent. There's long pauses and things like that. So you've got Broca's aphasia, global aphasia, and transcortical motor aphasia are all subtypes of non-fluent aphasia. So, okay, let me do something to my sound really quickly here. Sorry about that. And then let me make sure that you can hear this. You could.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Open the jar. Put it on the bread. Okay. Put them back.
All right, so this first thing that you're going to watch here, this is Broca's aphasia. This is pretty severe Broca's aphasia. I will show you another video that is less severe Broca's aphasia. That's more kind of like your textbook case of Broca's aphasia. But this is also Broca's aphasia. I think my microphone is picking up what is being output. I know. I can just change where the sound is going. There we go. All right, so then I don't have to mute me, but you will still be able to hear this. So she's asking, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And she's got pictures of these things.
Show me how you'd make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Open the jar. Put it on the bread. Okay. Put them back together again.
Okay, so how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Does he know what he's talking about? Absolutely. He's pointing at the jelly, he's pointing at a slice of bread, he's pointing at the peanut butter, putting it together, and then he's eating it. He knows what he's talking about. Can he say these things? No. The words aren't coming out. The words for what he's doing and where he's putting things. No. One other thing I want to show you.
Can you
Look at the hand. Look at his
show
hand.
me how you'd make a peanut butter and jelly
That's his
sandwich?
right hand. And if you remember, I don't
In the
necessarily
draw.
talk about that in 205, but in
On the
310,
bread.
you'll know that the right hand is controlled by the left side of the brain.
Okay.
It's a contralateral control here.
Back together again.
The left hand is controlled by the right side of the brain. And so what you can tell is that his right hand is affected. His left hand is fine. If his right hand is affected, that means the stroke was on the left side of the brain. And we just talked about how strokes on the left side of the brain are most likely impacting speech. And so that's what's going on there as well. Left side damage. Okay, so production of speech is completely impaired, but the comprehension, very good. And repetition is impaired because no words can come out. So, of course, repetition is going to be impaired. Okay, our next one is Wernicke's aphasia, but before we do that, I want to show you a different Broca's aphasia patient. All right, there we go.
Ready for your morning fuel up? Kickstart your day with Kachava. It's a morning power boost in a glass, energizing your body with 25 grams of plant-based.
I do.
And what do you do now?
Voices of Hope aphasia.
And what is Voices of Hope?
Peterberg, and Dr. Hinckley, and myself, founder for me, and I members the members probably 760.
Okay, so his right hand also seems to not be doing a whole lot, and I actually haven't noticed that until I've seen this a whole bunch of times. I didn't notice that until just now, that it never moves. He's only talking with his left hand. And so I suspect that that's probably showing the same thing that we saw in the other video, that there's left side damage because the right hand isn't working. The other thing to know from this is not everybody with Broca's aphasia can't say any words. So he's got some of his speech more intact. It's just it's quite a few words in the sentence, but it's not every word. His little words are there, like and all these things, piecing them together. But then when he's trying to say St. Petersburg, it just came out as Peterburg. And he knew that wasn't totally right, and so he'd kind of go back and try it over a few times. He has somebody cueing him. His wife and some other people that he worked with are cueing him on the words that he's not thinking of. Once he's cued, he can say them, or he just agrees that they've said the right thing. So Broca's aphasia can look a little different for a different person. I mean, you'll see some characteristics that are the same. You'll see some characteristics that are different. Now let's take a look at one of my favorite videos for Wernicke's aphasia.
The last weight is
Hi, Byron. How are you?
I'm happy. Are you pretty? You look good.
What are you doing today?
We stayed with the water over here at the moment and talked with the people for them over there. They're diving for them at the moment. But they'll save in the moment. He'll have water very soon for him. With luck for him.
So we're on a cruise and we're about to
We
get to
will
Juneau.
store it right here and they'll save their hands right there for them.
And what were we just doing with the iPad?
Right at the moment they don't show a darn thing.
With the iPad that we were doing. We, like, here?
I'd like my change for me and change hands for me. It would happen. I would talk with Donna sometimes. We're out with them. Other people are working with them. I'm very happy with them.
Good.
This girl was very good and happy. And I play golf and hit other trees. We play out with the hands. We save a lot of hands on hold for people's, for us, other hands. I don't know what you get, but I talk with a lot of hand for him. Sometime.
So, big difference from Broca's aphasia, right? With the Broca's aphasia, you could understand the first guy, no speech, but you could understand what he was saying, doing, saying, conveying. Second guy had some speech, and you could certainly understand what he was saying. But now, with Wernicke's aphasia, lots of speech that maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense. With this particular guy, we call him Green Shirt Guy. It's kind of like everybody that teaches this in all sorts of places calls this guy Green Shirt Guy. It's not evident that he understands the question that's being asked. So we're going to look at another guy in a second, and you'll see that he has Wernicke's aphasia as well. He's got kind of this word salad thing that's happening. But this other guy is going to understand a question that's asked of him. He answers in at least a way that kind of clues you into what he's saying. I'm not sure that this guy knows that he's not answering the question correctly. And so there seems like, again, there's some very large similarities between Wernicke's aphasia, but different patients are going to present differently. Not everybody looks exactly the same. So he did seem to be aware that the person that was asking him wasn't getting the answer that they were looking for, because he was kind of like trying to figure out what about my answer isn't working for you. So there's not a lot of comprehension of going on here, which is unfortunate. And so let's go back to our slides and take a look at a different person with a slightly different type of Wernicke's aphasia.
Now, tell me as much of the story of Cinderella as you can. Tell me the story. What happens?
She says how to do with her. Then the kins of them do that. Bad things, on the things, take the thing, bang, to do it, bad, bad, bad. After thing, little thing, bing, 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 a thing it is. The other one can see it on the thing. They went for, they can looking for, with the big one or things, a good one that says, oh, you can do it. When do you go? See a good letter to do it. Boom, 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 boom. She sees it. The ball ones we want it. We like them. We're going to get it. She says, oh, I got to go. It's going to go. Fit it back. Launch the thing on. gone and lost of it, one here for looking of it. Put down the bad thing with something that sought it. She saw it. I don't remember that one. But when you say it, she'll be looking to get it. The bin one would say no of it. No, I can't see it. The next one, you can't see the two ones do it. They should be doing it, so not doing it. It should be the one guy is doing this. The two guys, why should do it? I can't get it, can't get it. Now she says, well, I'll try to. I could get it, it's me, the big one. Now you're going to tell the one, you get the matter, we gain the way, back again. Am I saying it?
Yeah, and then what happened? What's the ending?
She got it. Other thing, you get it right here.
Okay, so very different from Green Shirt Guy, right? That was Cinderella that he was talking about. And the thing is, if you know the story of Cinderella, you can see that story in there, right? At the end, I can't get it. I can't get it. I got it. That's people trying on the slipper and they can't put it on, and then when Cinderella tries it on, she can wear it. And so it's all there. It's not there in a way that makes sense verbally completely, but there's a lot of the thing and the thing, that kind of, like, these are really non-specific words that he's communicating to us with. But it's clear that he knows the story of Cinderella, which means it's clear that he understood what the person that he's working with, what she asked him, which is, tell me the story of Cinderella. So it is fluent aphasia, it's coming out, but in this case, he understands what's being asked of him, and he also is curious if she understands what he's saying at the end, right? He says, like, am I saying that right? So again, different levels here of Wernicke's aphasia, right? They're both fluent aphasia, they're both Wernicke's aphasia, and yet they look considerably different. So production is fluent, it's coming out fine. The comprehension is impaired, and so repetition is impaired as well, just because presumably you would say a word and he might say the thing or something like that. So repetition is impaired here. Repetition was impaired for Broca's aphasia too, possibly because that word wouldn't be able to, that person wouldn't be able to find it to be able to say it. Okay, so let's look at another one. This is conduction aphasia, and what I want you to listen to is this story of Cinderella.
There's a mouse, there's a pumpkin, and the mice are horses now, and the pumpkin, there's a carriage or something. And then they go to a ball, and that's why the prince, they went to a date or something. So they went to a ball, and I think she had the time, so she has to go back home, and now it's gone. It's stopped. The pumpkin's gone. The horses are gone. She's back home. And then I think the end, I forgot. Either the prince, she take him out or somewhere out, and now they're good. Happy something, yeah.
Okay, so pretty good. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily be able to say that there was any sort of deficit there, right? Pretty great. But now listen to this. This is just repetition. There we go.
House.
Spool, belt, flower. Should I go on?
Yeah.
Okay. Candle, hand, saw.
Candle is gone and gone.
So that's pretty that's pretty crazy, right? Good good production, good comprehension, and then repetition, just 3 words and they're gone. So you can have good production, good comprehension, but the repetition can be impaired. That always just, I mean, Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia are strange and interesting, but this conduction aphasia and the inability to just repeat these things is mind-boggling to me. And one thing that I want to point out is if you're an adult, how often are you repeating things right back? Maybe not a lot. So this guy might not have a lot of problems in his life. He's an adult and his production and comprehension are fine. But imagine if you're a child. I mean, one of the main things you're doing to learn language is repeating things back to figure out how to say them, to learn what things are called. And if you can't do that, that's really impeding your ability to learn new words, to learn language. So luckily, there's not a lot of children who have strokes. There's not a lot of children who have TBIs. There are some. And among that group, there's some children who have aphasia. And among that group, there's some children who have conduction aphasia. And I think you can see why that's such an issue. The fundamental parts of learning how to speak, learning different words, is repeating those things back. And so if you can't do that, that's a big problem. Okay, we'll take a quicker look at some of these 2 other types of aphasia. So this is called transcortical motor aphasia, and you'll see here Broca's aphasia is down here a bit, and this is a little bit more up and more in the motor strip.
Thinking back, can you tell me a story about something important that happened to you in your life? It could be happy, sad, from any time, from when you were a child or more recently.
No, it is going.
My daughter, no, my son was born, and then my daughter was born. Golly, I can't tell you how happy I was. But, okay. See, Robbie, he was 1 year old when he has his first seizure, and every time after that, he was more and more acceptable to the seizure. And golly, okay, 4 years old, he freaks out them. But he's so smart. He's go to in high school. He goes to I don't know. Aphasia.
That one's a bit longer. So I'm going to stop it there. But there's a few things going on. So you can see that it, well, let's do our little chart down here. The production's impaired. It's not fluent. So it's not like Wernicke's. The speech is more halting, sort of like Broca's aphasia. Comprehension is fine. And you'll see that repetition is fine.
Okay. Food, sock, night, thumb.
Food, sock, night, thumb.
Food, sock.
Okay. So, not so bad, right? One other thing that you see with transcortical motor aphasia that you don't see with Broca's aphasia is also some issues with production. So you'll see these, well, that's not the right way to say it. You see issues with production with Broca's aphasia, but motor production. So kind of slurring. It might sound like there's an accent or something going on. So this also comes in to that as well. A big difference between the two, aside from the more motor focus on it, of it's more of a motor issue, and of course there's some word finding issues and there's some issues being fluent, but one of the other issues you see is that there's never just a word that can't come out. I think maybe one time she couldn't figure out the word that she was trying to say. And so one of the hallmarks of Broca's aphasia is there's just a word that won't make the connection and can't come out. And she doesn't have that. She can pretty much say everything she wants to, not fluently, not automatically, but she can. And so that's one big difference between the two. Okay, let's look at our last one here, transcortical sensory aphasia. This one is a little longer too. So I'm going to turn my...
Okay. Tell me the story of Cinderella in your own words, and you can use anything you know about Cinderella besides what was in this book.
Cinderella was a beautiful, beautiful girl, and she was introduced as given a job to a beautiful camp. A camp that was not beautiful of the girls, kind of hard, mean, but she was, everything about her and the way she did was beautiful. The way she did the house, the way she did the tray, everything was beautiful. And then one day, she looked outside and she saw the beautiful, beautiful field. Oh, she could hardly believe the satin feel of it and the the orchestra. And she thought, I wonder what it's like there. And she found that it was truly wonderful that there, of all people that she met, through her costume, everything beautiful, she met the man. He was a gorgeous man. And she gets comforted to him, and she ends up marrying him. And she's playfully, wonderfully well.
Forgot to turn my microphone back on. So you can see that that's fluent as well, very fluent. You also are going to see that repetition is good.
The dog chased the cat up the tree.
The dog chased the cat up the tree.
The bird was caught by the worm.
The bird was caught by the worm.
Would you like to star in a movie?
Would you like to star in a movie?
Books like to read children.
Books like to read children.
So repetition is great, which is not the case with normal Wernicke's aphasia. And production is fluent too. But the comprehension is, it's interesting. This is another one that's just very intriguing to me, in a lot of different ways. So it kind of starts on track and then quickly goes off track. It starts where you feel like it should start, and then it kind of goes off towards the green shirt guy area. So things seem like they're on track, and then they get very much off track. It's different from green shirt guy because he is not responding at any point to what is being said and can't do the repetition task because he would just say, the words that are going to come out at that point. The guy in the black shirt who taught us about Cinderella, he kind of stayed on the topic like we were talking about. He did seem to know what he was talking about, but it stayed the same level of impaired the entire way through. He also wouldn't be able to do the repetition task because, again, the words would just come out as the words that he would be able to say at that moment, right? So thing and the get it, and that might be what he would use in a repetition task. But for transcortical sensory aphasia, the repetition task is fine. She can repeat these things perfectly fine, and it seems to start when she tells the story of Cinderella. It seems to start in the right place and then quickly veer off, kind of like it goes into stream of consciousness, which is one of the reasons why it's so interesting to me, is that possibly people with these types of aphasias really do let you see what stream of consciousness is like, sort of. I mean, we try to do that with our brains the way they are, but we influence what they're thinking about. And it's possible that answering that question influenced where her kind of free response answer went as well. But it definitely wasn't the story of Cinderella. So the comprehension was impaired there as well. And then we have global aphasia. This is actually, we definitely want to take a look at this one too. I'll mute myself again.
How about her? You know exactly who she is. She's going to guess that you know. Singing is a great way to do this.
Is it Judy Garland?
Beautiful. Wonderful. I know you know. Don't need to ask it before whether she's Judy Garland. How about these guys? Not their individual names, but... how about... Four of them. And they're singers. We know that. Good start. Are they the Rolling Stones? Yes or no? Is that yes or no? Okay, you don't know. Okay. Is one of them named Ringo? Yes, one's named Ringo. Are they the Beatles? Just take a chance. They either are or they aren't. Are they the Beatles or aren't they? They are the Beatles. Yeah, they're the Beatles.
Okay, so on our chart, I think you can probably guess what's going to come up here, but production, no, production, impaired, comprehension impaired and repetition impaired, so it's kind of across the board impaired. There is an interesting thing that's going on, though. So he does understand the first question, because what he's doing, it's Judy Garland that's on there. You heard her say that. And what he's doing is trying to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow to indicate who it is. So he's making the connection that song goes with that person. So even though you have global aphasia, which is like impacting, you can see on the graph here, it's some Broca's area, it's some Wernicke's area, it's all these other areas. It'd be up with transcortical motor aphasia too, all these different things. Just massive damage in all these disparate areas. Even with that, you can still maintain some sort of communication to show that he's making a connection between those. So it's not that not being able to communicate these things means that they don't know what they're trying to say. And so it's really a lot of the time frustrating, probably more so for the patients who have non-fluent aphasias. So the transcortical motor aphasia, the Broca's aphasia, and possibly global aphasia too, because they know what they're trying to say and it's not coming out. The fluent aphasias don't seem to be as bothered by it because they seem to think that they're saying what they want to say. And so that doesn't seem to bother them a whole lot. But this other group, you can see it in their face, in their emotions and everything. The lady, the transcortical motor lady, seems to get upset with herself a lot for not being able to like have the word ready and produce the word correctly in the right way. And also the red shirt guy seems to kind of get upset and not be able to push this out. This is the last slide I have here for aphasia, but as I leave this up for you to look at, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I had a student recently who was one of the few children who have strokes. He, I think it was some congenital thing with the heart, which led to a stroke at a very young age, and he developed Broca's aphasia. And he said that, so by the way, he recovered from his Broca's aphasia. He was young when this happened, and he was able to go through a lot of therapy and kind of bounce back from this. But when this happened, he said it was like being stuck in tip of the tongue all the time. So when you can't think of, when the word spoon just goes away from your brain, you can't think of the word spoon. He said that the Broca's aphasia just felt exactly the same way. You knew what you were trying to think of, and for some reason it wasn't there, and it was very frustrating. So this happened when he was really young. I don't remember how old. But he was in one of my classes now, so he's, 20. Well, he was 20 at the time that he told the story, so it had been at least 10 years, if not more, since he had the Broca's aphasia. And he said that it's pretty much gone, now for him. When he gets tired, or if he has, had a couple beers or something, it'll come back. But other than that, it's pretty much fine. Or sometimes if he's in high stress, he'll feel like he's kind of falling back into the Broca's aphasia. But other than that, he was able to get around it. So this is another important point that I want to bring up, which is, what are we doing when we're working with these patients. So we've learned a lot about aphasia, but most of you are not here just to learn information and do research on things like I do. You're here to actually work with people and make their lives better. So what are you trying to do when you have a patient who has aphasia? Well, if you your goal is to have that student that I had, where you are able to help them completely get around their problem of Broca's aphasia, and it just comes up sometimes when you've had too much to drink. But that is not a realistic goal for everybody. As you can see, like a lot of these people aren't bouncing back, right away. So your goal is to improve communication and improve quality of life, however that's possible for your patient. If that is teaching them one word that they weren't able to say after their accident, then that's what that is. There is a story, you'll probably have classes with Dr. Rogalski later on in your career. She had a patient who had, I think it had to be Broca's aphasia, probably Broca's aphasia, and he couldn't say his dog's name. And it was really important to him that he was able to call his dog to come over to him or to give him treats or things like that. And so that's what they did. They just worked on the dog's name over and over until he was able to say the dog's name. And the day that he was able to say the dog's name, that was like the happiest he'd been since before his stroke. And so that's important. And if that's the only word that he ever was able to relearn, that's worth it, and that's what you're going for. Maybe you could teach more, maybe you can't, but as long as you did something to improve quality of life, you have succeeded. And with some people it's going to be even more difficult than that, so you can only do what you can do, but your goal isn't always complete rehabilitation. You can try, but it's not going to be realistic for every person. So improve communication and quality of life however possible. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say about aphasia and stroke and TBI. This is just a summary of the different type of aphasias that we've talked about and how they do with production, comprehension, and repetition. So you can pause this and look at it, or you can pull the slides up on Canvas. Okay, that's it for this portion, and I will see you in the next lecture.